From weak to unbreakable, that transformation is not about muscles, money, or motivation. It is about the mind. And no one represents that shift better than David Goggins, the former Navy SEAL, ultramarathon runner, and author of Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished. David Goggins was not born strong. He did not grow up confident or fearless. His childhood was filled with abuse, poverty, racism, and constant fear. In school, he struggled academically. He stuttered. He lacked belief in himself. Over time, he accepted a dangerous identity, that he was average, incapable, and weak. Weakness, he later realized, begins in the mind long before it shows in the body. After high school, his life had no direction. He worked a regular job spraying for cockroaches. He gained weight and eventually reached nearly 300 pounds. He felt embarrassed by his reflection and disappointed in his choices. Every day looked the same, comfortable but empty, but weakness becomes permanent only when you accept it as who you are. One night, sitting alone in his apartment, he faced himself honestly. No excuses, no blaming his past, no blaming society, just truth. He asked himself why he had allowed his life to drift. That moment of self-confrontation was the first step from weak to unbreakable. In Can't Hurt Me, he introduces the concept of the accountability mirror. Stand in front of a mirror and tell yourself the truth. If you are out of shape, admit it. If you are lazy, admit it. If you are scared of hard work, admit it. Truth may hurt, but it gives you control. You cannot improve what you refuse to acknowledge. Most people avoid pain. They look for comfort, motivation, and quick results. But Goggins discovered that real growth comes from voluntary suffering, choosing hard things on purpose. When he decided to become a Navy SEAL, he was far from ready. He could barely run. He was overweight and undisciplined. To qualify, he had to lose over 100 pounds in just a few months. It seemed impossible. His body hurt. His mind resisted. But he stopped negotiating with himself. He understood something powerful. The mind quits before the body does. Each time he wanted to stop, he forced himself to go a little further. One more mile, one more repetition, one more hour of effort. That extra push builds evidence. Evidence that you are stronger than your excuses. In Never Finished, he explains that strength is not a finish line. There is no final version of you that no longer needs growth. Becoming unbreakable is a daily commitment. Comfort makes you soft. Challenge makes you sharp. During Navy SEAL training, known as BUD/S, he faced freezing water, sleep deprivation, and constant exhaustion. Men quit every day. There was always a bell available. Ring it, and the pain ends. That bell represents the easy way out in all our lives. The weak listen to feelings. The unbreakable listen to purpose. Goggins did not feel strong during those moments. He felt fear and pain like everyone else. The difference was discipline. He acted based on commitment, not emotion. Feelings change. Purpose does not. Another principle he shares is the 40% rule. When you think you are finished, when your body screams to stop, you're only at about 40% of your real capacity. The brain tries to protect you by exaggerating discomfort. It wants safety. But growth lives beyond that mental barrier. When Goggins later ran ultramarathons, sometimes with severe injuries, he relied on discipline, not motivation. Motivation fades quickly. Discipline stays when everything feels difficult. He trained himself to stay calm inside suffering and focus inside chaos. From weak to unbreakable does not mean becoming fearless. It means moving forward despite fear. You build mental calluses the same way you build physical ones. Through friction, hard conversations, early mornings, difficult workouts, long hours of focused work. Each uncomfortable action strengthens your mind. This path is not glamorous. It is often lonely. When you decide to improve, some people will not understand you. They may question your intensity or mock your discipline. Growth changes you, and change makes others uncomfortable. Goggins often trained alone because he understood a simple truth. No one is coming to save you. If you want to transform, you must take ownership of everything. Your failures, your habits, your results. Weakness says, I can't because. Strength says, I will despite. At first, the The transformation feels unnatural. Your old habits pull you back. Your old identity whispers that this is not who you are. But identity is not fixed. It is built through repeated action. Every disciplined choice is a vote for the stronger version of yourself. You do not become unbreakable in one dramatic moment. You become unbreakable through thousands of small, quiet decisions. Waking up early when you want to sleep, training when you feel tired, studying when you feel distracted, staying consistent when nobody is watching. The world sees achievements. It does not see the doubt, the setbacks, and the internal battles. Goggins failed many times. He faced injuries and obstacles. But instead of asking, "Why me?" he asked, "What is this teaching me?" That question transformed suffering into strength. Pain is not punishment. It is preparation. Everyone has weakness inside them. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, laziness, procrastination. The journey begins when you stop lying to yourself about it. No more waiting for perfect conditions. No more blaming the past. No more choosing comfort over growth. You face the truth. You accept responsibility. You choose discipline over emotion. That is the first real step from weak to unbreakable. It is not fast. It is not easy. It requires brutal honesty and relentless effort. But once you decide that excuses are no longer an option, everything changes. Because the strongest version of you is not built through comfort. It is built through controlled struggle, consistent discipline, and the refusal to quit, no matter how hard it gets. The journey from weak to unbreakable does not slow down after your first success. In many ways, it becomes harder. Because once you prove you can survive pain, life begins to test how long you can sustain discipline. For David Goggins, becoming a Navy SEAL was not the end of suffering. It was the beginning of a new standard. He refused to let comfort creep back into his life. He understood that comfort is dangerous. It whispers that you've done enough. It convinces you to protect your achievements instead of expanding them. But growth demands constant pressure. After completing SEAL training, Goggins searched for another challenge that would expose his weaknesses. That is when he entered the world of ultramarathons. He had little experience in long-distance running, yet he signed up for races that pushed the human body beyond normal limits. One of his early 100-mile races nearly destroyed him physically. His kidneys began to fail. His body shut down. Every step felt like torture. Still, he kept moving. Why? Because he had trained his mind to see pain as temporary and purpose as permanent. Most people stop when discomfort becomes intense. They interpret pain as a warning to quit. But Goggins reframed suffering. Instead of asking, "How do I escape this?" he asked, "What can I gain from this?" That question separates average from elite. In Can't Hurt Me, he explains that suffering builds what he calls a callous mind. Just like lifting weights tears muscle fibers, so they rebuild stronger. Pushing through hardship tears down mental limits, so they rebuild wider. Every difficult experience adds another layer of protection against weakness. But building a callous mind requires intentional exposure to discomfort. You cannot become unbreakable by staying safe. Goggins often chose the hardest option available. If the weather was brutal, he trained in it. If he was tired, he extended the workout. If he failed at something, he repeated it until improvement came. He refused to let weakness hide in any corner of his life. And weakness hides in subtle places. It hides in procrastination. It hides in overthinking. It hides in waiting for the right mood. The unbreakable mindset does not wait for mood. It acts based on commitment. Another powerful lesson from his journey is accountability without excuses. When he failed, he did not blame conditions or people. He looked inward. He asked what he could control. This mindset eliminates victimhood. As long as you believe something else controls your results, you remain powerless. Taking ownership gives you power. But ownership is uncomfortable because it removes escape routes. If your results are your responsibility, then so is your effort. So is your discipline. So is your consistency. It never finished. Goggins emphasizes that the enemy is not external competition. The real opponent is your former self. Yesterday's limits. Yesterday's excuses. Yesterday's comfort zone. To become unbreakable, you must outgrow your previous identity repeatedly. There is also a mental strategy he used during extreme endurance events: compartmentalization. Instead of thinking about the total distance remaining, he focused only on reaching the next checkpoint. When pain intensified, he narrowed his focus further, just the next step, just the next breath. This teaches a powerful life principle. When overwhelmed, reduce the target. You do not conquer mountains in one leap. You conquer them step by step. During one race, his feet were so damaged that every stride felt unbearable. Most would have stopped permanently. But he understood that the body often has more to give than the mind allows. By staying present and refusing to dramatize the pain, he discovered deeper reserves of strength. This is where the transformation becomes real. Weakness reacts emotionally to discomfort. Strength responds strategically. When life applies pressure, financial problems, criticism, failure, rejection, your reaction determines your identity. If you collapse immediately, weakness grows. If you pause, assess, and move forward anyway, resilience expands. Being unbreakable does not mean never feeling doubt. Goggins felt doubt often, but he treated doubt as noise, not authority. He listened to logic, preparation, and purpose instead. That discipline created something powerful: internal confidence, not loud confidence, not social media confidence. Quiet confidence built from evidence. Evidence that he had survived worse before. Evidence that he could endure more than he once believed. You build that same evidence through action. Every early morning when you show up despite fatigue. Every difficult task you complete instead of avoiding. Every time you keep a promise to yourself. Those moments accumulate. But understand this: the world will not reward you immediately. There will be long periods where your effort feels unnoticed. Growth happens internally first. The visible results come later. That delay discourages many people. They want instant transformation, instant recognition, instant success. But becoming unbreakable is slow construction. It is brick by brick, day by day. If you rush the process, you weaken the foundation. The second stage of transformation, as Goggins demonstrates, is not about proving others wrong. It is about proving yourself right again and again through relentless action, discipline over mood, ownership over excuses, progress over comfort. When you live by those principles long enough, something shifts inside you. Hard days no longer intimidate you. Pressure no longer shocks you. You begin to expect difficulty and prepare for it. And when difficulty becomes expected instead of feared, you stop breaking under it. You adapt. You endure. You evolve. That is how weakness slowly disappears. Not in one dramatic breakthrough, but in consistent, disciplined confrontation with everything that once intimidated you. And once you realize that your limits were mostly mental constructions, you stop seeing yourself as fragile. You start seeing yourself as forged. There comes a stage in the transformation where pain is no longer shocking. It becomes familiar. And familiarity with pain changes everything. For David Goggins, this stage was not about proving toughness to the world. It was about mastering his internal dialogue. Because even after extreme accomplishments, Navy SEAL training, ultramarathons, endurance records, the mind still tries to negotiate comfort. That negotiation never fully disappears. The difference now is awareness. In Can't Hurt Me, Goggins explains that your mind constantly searches for the path of least resistance. It wants efficiency. It wants safety. But safety rarely builds greatness. When you recognize this pattern, you stop being surprised by it. Instead of feeling discouraged by negative thoughts, you expect them. And expectation removes fear. When a difficult workout begins, the weak mindset says, "This is too much." The unbreakable mindset says, "I knew this would be hard." That small shift eliminates drama. It turns struggle into routine. One of the most powerful concepts he shares is the idea of staying hard, not in a physical sense, but mentally. Staying hard means refusing to soften your standards when life becomes easier. It means holding yourself accountable even when nobody else demands it. Success can quietly rebuild weakness. After major achievements, many people relax. They protect their image. They reduce effort. They avoid new risks to maintain comfort. But growth demands continuous exposure to challenge. Goggins did not allow past success to define his ceiling. He kept searching for new arenas that reveal flaws. If he felt mentally lazy, he attacked it. If he noticed fear, he confronted it directly. That relentless self-examination is uncomfortable, but comfort breeds fragility. Another critical lesson in this phase is emotional endurance. Physical pain is intense, but emotional fatigue can be heavier. Doubt, loneliness, criticism, misunderstanding. When you pursue extreme growth, not everyone will support you. Some will question your intensity. Some will call it obsession. You must be stable enough to continue anyway. Being unbreakable is not loud. It is quiet consistency. Goggins often trained alone, not because he disliked people, but because solitude strengthens accountability. When no one is watching, your choices reveal your character. Do you still give full effort? Do you still finish what you start? Character is built in isolation. It never finished. He emphasizes that the title itself is a mindset. You are never complete, never fully strong, never beyond improvement. The moment you believe you have arrived is the moment you begin declining. So, how do you maintain growth long term? You raise your standards. Standards determine behavior. If your standard is average effort, you will stop when things become uncomfortable. If your standard is excellence, you will push beyond temporary emotion. Goggins trained his standards to override his feelings. When tired, he still executed the plan. When injured, he adjusted but did not abandon discipline. When discouraged, he leaned into structure instead of emotion. Structure protects progress. There is also a deeper shift that happens in this stage. Identity transformation. At first, you are someone trying to become disciplined. Over time, through repetition, you become disciplined. The behavior no longer feels forced. It feels aligned. You're no longer fighting weakness daily. You're reinforcing strength daily. But this does not mean life becomes easy. Challenges evolve. New fears appear. New environments test you. Being unbreakable does not remove obstacles. It changes your response to them. Instead of asking, why is this happening? You ask, how do I grow from this? That growth-focused lens changes pressure into opportunity. Goggins often says that suffering is a privilege, not because pain is pleasant, but because it reveals capacity. Many people never discover how strong they are because they never push beyond convenience. If you want to know your limits, you must approach them repeatedly. The third stage of transformation is about stability under pressure. When chaos arrives, you remain steady. When plans collapse, you adjust instead of panic. When exhaustion hits, you rely on preparation instead of motivation. Preparation builds confidence. Confidence builds resilience. Resilience builds permanence. And permanence is what separates temporary motivation from true mental toughness. At this level, you stop seeking validation. You do not need applause to continue. You do not need approval to act. Your discipline is self-generated. Your drive is internal. That independence is power. From weak to unbreakable is not a loud explosion of change. It is a steady construction of character, brick by brick, rep by rep, choice by choice. You confront laziness until it weakens. You confront fear until it shrinks. You confront doubt until it loses authority. And one day, you realize something profound. Hard days no longer intimidate you. Pressure no longer shocks you. Pain no longer defines you. It refines you. That is the moment you understand. Being unbreakable is not about avoiding hardship. It is about becoming the type of person hardship cannot control. There is a final shift that happens on the journey from weak to unbreakable. It is not louder discipline. It is not longer workouts. It is not bigger achievements. It is ownership at the deepest level. For David Goggins, the ultimate lesson was never about SEAL training or ultramarathons. Those were tools. The real transformation was internal control, the understanding that no matter what happens externally, your response is yours. That realization makes you dangerous in the best way. Because when you fully accept responsibility for your standards, your effort, and your mindset, excuses lose power. In Can't Hurt Me, he speaks about confronting your past instead of running from it. Trauma, failure, embarrassment. Most people bury these experiences. They avoid thinking about them. But avoidance keeps wounds open. Confrontation closes them. To become unbreakable, you must revisit your weaknesses without emotion and without denial, not to suffer again, but to understand what broke you before, what scared you, where did you quit. When you analyze your past honestly, it stops controlling your future. Goggins turned his painful childhood, his academic struggles, and his early failures into fuel. Instead of saying, "This ruined me," he decided, "This built me." That reframing is powerful. The event does not change, but your interpretation does. And interpretation shapes identity. It never finished. The message deepens. There is no final version of you that is complete. No permanent state of toughness. Strength must be maintained. Discipline must be practiced. Standards must be protected. The moment you stop guarding them, weakness returns quietly. Life will not stop testing you. There will be injuries, losses, rejections, financial stress, criticism, unexpected setbacks. Being unbreakable does not mean avoiding these. It means facing them without collapsing internally. When something painful happens, the weak mindset asks, "Why me?" The unbreakable mindset asks, "What now?" That forward-focused question keeps momentum alive. Another final principle from Goggins' philosophy is embracing voluntary hardship. If you only grow when forced, you remain reactive. But if you seek discomfort intentionally, cold mornings, hard workouts, difficult goals, you train yourself before life forces a lesson. Prepared minds do not panic easily. Voluntary suffering builds confidence because you know you chose it. You walked into it. You survived it. That survival creates internal proof that no external challenge feels completely foreign. Confidence is built through evidence, not positive thinking, not motivation. Evidence. Every time you keep your word to yourself, you add evidence. Every time you continue despite exhaustion, you add evidence. Every time you resist quitting when it would be easy, you add evidence. Eventually, the evidence becomes undeniable. You are no longer the person who avoids discomfort. You are no longer the person who folds under pressure. You are no longer controlled by mood. You are controlled by standards. That is the core of being unbreakable. Standard higher than your excuses. Standards stronger than your emotions. Standards consistent regardless of circumstance. But here is the truth most people do not want to hear. No one can hand this mindset to you. No speech can permanently install it. No book can magically create it. Even the lessons from Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished only matter if you act on them. Information does not change you. Application does. You must choose daily discipline when it feels inconvenient. You must choose growth when it feels uncomfortable. You must choose effort when it feels exhausting. And you must do it without applause. Because the strongest version of you is built in silence. There will be days when you feel like you are slipping. Days when motivation disappears. Days when progress feels invisible. That is normal. Being unbreakable does not mean never struggling. It means never surrendering your standards during struggle. When you fall short, you do not quit. You adjust. You recommit. You continue. That relentless continuation is power. Over time, something shifts permanently. Fear still appears, but it does not control you. Pain still exists, but it does not stop you. Doubt still whispers, but it does not decide for you. You decide, and that is the strongest position a human being can reach. From weak to unbreakable is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming responsible. Responsible for your effort. Responsible for your reactions. Responsible for your growth. When you live that way long enough, life may bend you, but it will not break you because you built yourself deliberately. You trained your mind intentionally. You faced yourself honestly. And once you learn to conquer yourself, nothing outside of you holds the same power again. That is what it means to be unbreakable.